every year just talk about how IP impacts us in different ways. So World IP Day tries to spotlight IP and specific things. And so the theme for this year is IP and sports, ready, set, innovate. So today we're talking about how IP impacts the African and Nigerian sports industry. We have 3 panelists here today, and I'll start by introducing them in how they are sat. So we have Lanre Vigo. Lanre Vigo is a dynamic Nigerian sports executive whose journey from aspiring footballer to influential agent and club owner epitomizes vision, grit, and heart. After early setbacks in his playing career, he pivoted to management. Sorry, technical difficulties.
It happens.
Aren't you live already?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is because of World IP Day. World IP Day happens every year, and it's to celebrate and explore the different ways in which IP impacts the world around us. The theme for this year is IP and sports, ready, set, innovate. So to celebrate and discuss that, we're going to spend some time today discussing how IP impacts the Nigerian and African sports industry. We have 3 fantastic panelists here today, and I will begin by introducing them, then we'll get into the meat of today's discussions. So first of all, we have Lanre Vigo. Lanre Vigo is a dynamic Nigerian sports executive whose journey from aspiring footballer to influential agent and club owner epitomizes vision, grit, and heart. After early setbacks in his playing career, he pivoted to management, co-founding Plug Sports in 2020 alongside Issa Asika and Bizu Osikoya. Lanre has built a powerhouse representing world-class athletes like Henry Oyekuru, Tobi Akinkunmi, Asiat Oshola, amongst others. He has also negotiated arguably the biggest endorsement deals in Nigeria, solidifying his reputation as a master strategist in athletes representation. In 2023, Lanre co-founded Inter Lagos FC, a bold move to rejuvenate Nigeria's domestic football scene, and one that is already making waves in the Nigerian National League. Inter Lagos is less than 3 years and have gone on to become the champions of the Lagos FA Cup, and most recently they have been promoted to the Nigerian Premier League. In 2025, he was appointed director of the Asiat Oshola Academy, an institution backed by Nike and committed to empowering young girls through football. With this role, Lanre is cementing his dedication to talent development and shaping the future of female football in Africa. Thank you, Mr. Vigo, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have with us Mr. Sola Aiyepeku. Mr. Sola Aiyepeku is a chemical engineering graduate of the University of Lagos with a deep passion for sports that started as a child. He drew and sold football comics and has been organizing football clubs and competitions since he turned 9 years old while growing up in the University of Ibadan. An OMPI 11 alumnus of the Lagos Business School, during which he was class president, he created the Nigerian Bankers Games as a banker and published The Game, a football magazine. He was also the co-founder of COD United Football Club and a sports broadcaster on various television platforms. By November 2023, Sola Aiyepeku completed a 4-year stint as the executive chairman of the Lagos State Sports Commission, driving positive change, fostering global collaboration, and empowering the next generation of sports leaders as part of his commitment to driving innovation and growth by promoting youth engagement at both local and international levels. Welcome, Mr. Aiyepeku.
Thank you very much.
Last and not least, we have Tobi Akinkunmi. Tobi Akinkunmi is a marketing and communications professional with near to decades worth of experience leading impactful campaigns across Africa and the diaspora. His career spans sports, entertainment, and technology, each shaped by his deep understanding of culture and brand storytelling. He previously served as marketing lead for Nigeria at NBA Africa, where he helped define the league's local brand strategy and fan engagement approach, driving the NBA's growing cultural relevance across the country. Before that, he led marketing and communications initiatives at Universal Music Group, bringing a unique blend of creativity and audience insight to his campaigns. As a co-founder of Anchor, a sports agency that bridges the worlds of sports and culture, Tobi has collaborated on impactful campaigns with the likes of NBA player Precious Achiuwa and England rugby captain Maru Itoje. His work consistently reflects a passion for celebrating African identity through sports and telling authentic stories that connects fans, brands, and athletes. Driven by innovation and deep respect for the power of sports as a cultural unifier, Tobi continues to shape how sport narratives are told across Africa and the diaspora. Welcome, Mr. Akinkunmi.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
As you can see, we have some very hefty individuals on today's panel. So to get things started, we will start with Mr. Aiyepeku. So I already said, today's theme is about innovation and creativity and how that impacts sports through IP. And as we've read, you had a stint, you're the immediate chairman from the Sports Commission for Lagos State. So from your experience, what do you think, from a governance perspective, where does IP sit in the sports industry value chain?
Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. If you don't mind, I'll be very blunt. I usually am. The truth is, it doesn't sit anywhere. A lot depends on the individual that's sitting at the helm of affairs. The knowledge base, the experience, the exposure, and the know-how to push things forward. And unfortunately, you don't have most things working for you. So you need to more or less push by yourself. So in answer to that question directly, at least when I got there was no vision as to IP or that kind of line of thought. And it's not difficult to see why. First of all, we're still in a fledgling sports industry, where it was just 3 or 4 years ago that a sports policy was established for the first time in the country. And for me, I was part of that, but for me, the theme was even very funny. Converting sports from a social angle to a business in 2022. So it just tells you how, I won't say how far back we are, but how much we have to go. So to answer your question, no, there was no vision or placement or projection as per sports and IP.
But since 2020 to 2022, do you think we've made any impact, any changes since then?
I think.
Or do you think we're still stuck?
I think we're not stuck. I mean, the good thing is that this generation of younger men, I'm a young guy too, younger men have great vision. And there's something we were discussing before we started. There is bravery. Before you can discuss or talk about IP, someone has to be brave and someone has to have the vision to push that particular project or angle. And I referred to him before he came to Mr. Vigo. You have to be brave in this country to set up a football club, to set up companies, or even your personal or whatever business you're doing, to push down your vision. And it's when you can establish that kind of broad base that you can begin to pick out valuable IP projects or value to then project. But even as it is, we are still at the foundational base of, okay, I own a club or I have a brand, and so I go and register it with the CAC and have the trade and have it trademarked. After that, what else? Well, that's not real IP. IP is you having a unique brand value, whether you're an organization or a personality, that you can push that because it has some, let's put it crudely, some commercial value, and then that becomes something that you can monetize and push forward. Name one domestically. Mr. Vigo can name a few because he has a portfolio pushed from the foreign angle that has been globally projected, but from the local angle, from the Nigerian angle, we have a few more on the African scene, but from the Nigerian angle, stuff. But I think the building blocks are being established with the younger people who are brave, creating properties and all that.
Thank you. I think that's a very valid point. It goes beyond just incorporation. Like anything, as you said, IP is what makes you distinctive, what makes you stand out in such a busy scene. And I know in other countries, for example, players are trademarking their celebration poses because they're known for that, and that's what they do. So they trademark it, they protect it, they push their marks like CR7, we all know what we're referring to. All those things just goes beyond just, oh, I have talent, I can play sports. So Mr. Vigo, we're going to come to you from the segue. As you mentioned, you are a club owner. So from your perspective, what IP assets in Nigerian football are the most undervalued today?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll first start with the name of the club. It's something that you might think is not serious. You might not need to trademark it or anything, but it's actually very serious. I'll give an example. So we at Inter Lagos, I don't know, Inter Milan, Inter Miami can one day write to us and be like, you're using the Inter name, why? And maybe try and sue us. But before we got to that Inter Lagos name, I did a lot of research. Found out that Inter Milan, Inter Miami, there's actually a longer name. And that's exactly what I've done with Inter Lagos. So we're actually International Lagos.
Right.
But we shortened it to Inter Lagos just to make it sound cooler and whatnot. Another thing that is undervalued, even though a lot of football clubs in Nigeria don't have their own stadiums. But say we had our own stadium now and we had a name for the stadium, you would need to trademark that name so someone else doesn't go ahead and use that name as their own stadium. Like I wouldn't be calling Inter Lagos Stadium San Siro, for example. It would be something else unique to ourselves. I think those are the two major things that I think are undervalued.
I think the stadium one is actually a very valid point because, again, something that you may not have thought of initially because you think, oh, just protects my company and that's it. But it is part of your brand.
Exactly.
When you play home matches in other countries, then in your home ground, you feel a pride coming in. This is our stadium.
Of course.
And so, Mr. Akinkunmi, in your view, from what we've all said so far, there is clearly a lot of work that needs to be done. But in your view, what makes a sports brand investment ready? And what do you think makes sponsors hesitate in Nigeria?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for having me. I think for a sports brand, a sports property to be investment ready, there are a couple boxes they must tick. Firstly, you need to show reach, okay? How many people are you engaging with? How many people are you impacting, right? Another thing you need to show is relevance, which is basically social currency, right? Community, who are these people you're engaging with? What do they say about you, etc.? Sustainability and longevity, you know, what is your long-term plan? How are you managing things? And how do you intend to get to the place you want to get to, right? I think these are the main things, and I think from a sponsor standpoint, what might be preventing people from, you know, sponsoring sports brands or whatever the case is, failure to meet these things, but also in addition, there's a general lack of trust in the market. And you can't really blame the sponsors, right? And this lack of trust is not just in the sports thing, it's a Nigerian thing, it's an African thing, unfortunately, at this point in time. But there are many people, working to change this narrative. And some people, when they're approaching these sponsors, while you've shown your reach, relevance, all the things I mentioned, you also need to clearly highlight value exchange. What is the value proposition? These guys are not going to, you have to imagine that the people you're speaking to are looking at 10 decks a day. So you have to make it so clear that, it's in their face, and assume they also have 5 minutes to read it. What do you want them to capture? So I think those are the gaps, and those are the things you need to take to even be ready for that sort of thing.
Okay. So how do you think we can use IP to push that as well? Like we said, like the branding and everything, like how can IP help push this forward and get us to where we need to be?
I think it's a bunch of things, right? I think we have to be very, very intentional about data, firstly, right? Because a lot of things I said, reach, relevance, community, data is what you're going to use to show this footprint. And we also have to be very intentional about developing properties that can be exported, right? That tick all the IP boxes, like you said. So things you can trademark, things you can copyright, the difference. So if we're talking about a sports brand like Inter Lagos, as Vigo said, I know I'm very familiar with what they do. Their jersey is very unique. The name, it's only, you have to develop something first that is tangible before you can trademark it or copyright it, right? So I think these are some things that, can be done on that front.
I feel like you mentioned jerseys, because I do have a question for you, Mr. Vigo, on this. How do you cope or feel with merchandising and counterfeiting? Because that's a huge problem. Not only, I'm sure, with you, but like in general, like you go to the shops, you're seeing some jerseys that you're like, this is clearly fresh off some miscellaneous printing press somewhere. So is that something that you've dealt with, something you're concerned about? How do you cope with that?
So I haven't dealt with it yet, but it's certainly something that I'm concerned about, especially now that we're in the Premier League. We have bigger reach, more people are interested in our jerseys. Our jerseys are quite cool, so there'll probably be a case where somebody will be manufacturing counterfeit jerseys, but I think the only way to go about it is by just having your official, maybe like club shop or official manufacturer. Right now, I don't think we're at the point where we can actually battle it. It's something that it's there. We can't battle it for now, but probably eventually we'll be able to find a way around it. But right now, there isn't really a solution. There isn't really a lasting solution at the moment.
That's fair enough. But I think there are some solutions available. I think there are some laws and policies in place, but I think there's more the efforts involved in the enforcement, in pushing that, and you have to weigh up the financial efforts, and then if you shut one down today, will 5 more spring up elsewhere?
Exactly. It will probably cost a lot more right now to fight that, and we're not at that point. We don't have the money right now, but eventually when we do, we could.
Okay, I just want to add something from a little experience I had a few years back when I was part of the group negotiating the new kit for the Super Eagles with Adidas. There was a toss between Adidas and the Super Eagles, and we were trying to establish the kind of kit. We know that economy-wise, the average kit from any foreign kit maker about 100 to 120 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And how many people can afford that? Even if you can afford it, the interest is not there, one. And then two, like we just talked about, there is a secondary market of various levels. And I remember at that point, when we brought this up, Adidas were quite adamant that could not happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying it happens. And the next day we brought like 4 or 5 different jerseys. And we came up with a creative solution which unfortunately wasn't established. And what we said was, look, there must be a way where you create a lower standard of jersey. And then eventually they agreed, and they created a secondary jersey that wasn't all the same quality. Maybe there was a mesh under the arms and all that stuff, and that sold at a lower level. But even that lower level the cost is high. So all you can do is you can only target a certain group of people to buy those jerseys if the interest is there, if the value is there, and all that. But that lower end of the market will always thrive, except you want to go into that end as well.
I think that is an innovative better because you get into the different markets, but then unfortunately the threats still remain.
Yeah.
And
It'll always be there.
okay, now that we're on you, actually, we have a question for you too. What policy or institutional gaps currently prevent Nigerian sports leagues from fully monetizing their IP assets?
I don't think there's any gap or any policy established to enhance. But because Nigeria is such an open market, the opportunities are there. However, like they've both pointed out, the value of what you're trying to promote the IP of has to grow. I like what Mr. Vigo said about what his projections and vision is for Inter Lagos, because you can't push something that is not there yet. Now they've got a promotion to the Premier League. Then some things begin to happen, and associated values begin to come into their product. So right now we don't have that kind of level of interest, of value, of commercial value, and assets to push the IPs off. We don't even know the players who are the superstars in the Premier League. Even the players in each club, every player is looking to go abroad the next year. Once he gets onto the platform, he wants to go abroad next year. So how does he develop a followership that develops a value for him for it to push? So I think we are still at very, very, very foundational stages of thinking IP. Let us even first we need to grow the value of this league assets, these clubs. Clubs already find it difficult to promote the value of their players because, I mean, I'm sure he had many stories to tell. When we ran our club, Shield United then, we had a lot of stories to tell. Players can sign for 4 different clubs, 2 clubs abroad, 5 different agents, and then by the time you get to a sale, you don't even know where you stand anymore. So there's so much work to do fundamentally, and that's what we have to do. But the main job to do is to grow the value of these entities.
So how do you think we can grow that value?
By what we are doing. I'm happy there are more private clubs coming to the Premier League. That shows vision, the fact that more people are braver. I put emphasis on bravery because if you don't have bravery and people ready to commit and take risks, it doesn't enhance the value of the entire entity. So I think the first things that are being done, or the fundamental things that are being done, we have more clubs. When there's a larger core of privately run clubs, for example, in the football league, they can drive and make their own demands. They have a job to stay up there. Excuse me, and then they can begin to drive demands. The lack of enough structure because of the cost and all that will force association or partnerships with governments that have stadia and facilities. So there's just a lot to build fundamentally before you can truly drive that value. But one major thing that I think all clubs and everybody can do is still invest a lot in grassroots talent development. There are so many talents. But when they get, now the ages have been driven down. By the time they get to 14, 15, even 13 sometimes, the interest in football is gone for most people. Why? Because there's no next step. There's no next stage. Abroad, at every age group, there are competitions, there are development, involvement, and investments. But here, a child is 10 years old. He may not even play any competitive football till he's 16 or 17. By which time he's lost about 5-6 years of development, and then you see coaches and scouts and people who are interested not able to find anything unique. Where the place where we used to play in those days, we can play set across the road and develop your social or your street skills. Now there are buildings everywhere. There's nowhere to play football. I went to look for a place for my son to play with his friends. I was asked to pay 250,000 naira for 2 hours. So where is interest? Which parent can do that regularly for a child that has skill? So we need to go back to a lot of basics and build from bottom up before we can get to that point, in my opinion.
I think on the topic of like the grassroots development, I think there is a role for IP to play there. I think I hear what you're saying about that. We're not yet at the point where IP should be our focus, but I think that mindset in itself, we as a whole need to say IP from the beginning is what makes you valuable, because how do you build on an asset if you haven't protected that asset in the first place?
You haven't, sorry?
If you haven't put like you haven't begun, you haven't trademarked, you haven't protected yourself, you have a club, you have a logo, copyrights. If you've trademarked it, I think we need to be doing it together, side by side, building it together. Because if not, if we focus on one and not the other, I think we get to a point, or do you also agree that we get to a point where it's too late? We're like, oh, we've done all these developments, but now all our IP assets are to an extent wasting away. We've not focused on them, and now they're just.
I think already there's a general understanding. You register a club, you go and trademark it. Your logo and everything has to do with the organization. Where the IP, so I don't think there's a lack of knowledge. I don't think there's a lack of interest. I'm not saying that we should not. But I'm just saying that after that basic step is taken, the next step means you develop that asset or that individual or that corporate body to develop the value that you can drive your IP focus on.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vigo, so you actually spoken just now about grassroots, young players. When an athlete signs with a club, what typically happens with their name, their likeness, and their endorsement rights? But also in negotiating these contracts as a club owner and the players, where do misunderstandings most often arise with these contracts?
So I'll be very honest. In Nigeria, we don't pay attention to that, especially when you're signing like a grassroots player.
Is that the issue?
So yeah, of course, these are the issues. But what we try and do at Interlagos, because obviously I have the experience, and one of the core things for us at Interlagos is making sure that whichever player comes through us, they don't make the mistakes I made. So, like, creating image rights for yourself. Because immediately once you sign with a club, you sort of transfer that to the club. And what you can do is you negotiate it. So either you tell the club, hands off my image rights, I'm the one that will sort all of that out myself, and they back off. Because you see instances where like a player maybe has a sponsorship now, is a brand ambassador for Nike, and the club he's playing for is sponsored by Adidas. Obviously, the club will want him to take pictures and whatnot. Yeah. It's very, if both parties don't come to an agreement, then it's going to be a problem, because Nike will be like, look, you're signing with us, why are you taking a picture in an Adidas kit? So it's very important that the players, the clubs and the agents sit down and identify these issues early, so there isn't this problem when the time arises.
So you mentioned that you don't want young players to make from your mistakes. Could you give us an example of such contractual mistakes that you made that you have now since learned from?
I can't really give one, but I can talk about like one that I'm currently still facing, which is, so this doesn't even have to do with football. So it has to do with a client and their Instagram handle. Okay. So for like the last 3-4 years now, we've been trying to find this person that has the same name as a client on Instagram. But we haven't had any luck reaching the person. And probably if we do reach the person is going to ask for X amount of money. And they obviously see that this person is a big name. Or let me capitalize, let me cash out on this. So it's very important that grassroots footballers start to package themselves from early. So as little things like just getting your Instagram handle, your social media handle as your name, trademarking your own name, your celebration. It's very important that they learn these things and they know that, oh, if I'm signed with this brand, it's important that I let my club know that I'm signed to this brand, so there is no conflict when the time arises.
Thank you very much. I think that is a very important factor to be considered. Mr. Akinkunmi, back to you. Streaming, social media, and short-form content have reshaped how fans consume sports. This is everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Reels, you name it, there's short-form content everywhere. How do you think that Nigerian sports brands, this is not just necessarily just teams and players, but the sports brands as a whole, how do you balance, you want to go viral, but you also want to control your IP because
make money, yeah.
It's a tough, but how do you think they can balance that?
Yeah, as you rightly said, it's a tough one, but I think the simple way to look at it is, if it's something that's a moment, let's say a goal, a celebration, you can use that to target reach, right? But if it's something that's, provides a bit more context, that is what you can then use to monetize and license, right? But I'll always advise creating a tiered system, and we can say tier A is your free and viral social media content, right? That lives on social media, short form. And tier B, let's say, that's a bit, it's on the brand's own platforms, but it's also semi-exclusive. So that's where you can put some game highlights, for instance, and such, a bit of BTS content leading up to the game or whatever the case is. And I would say the most premium level is tier C, which is where you can post the full match, some exclusive content that people are going to have to pay and sign up for. Now, if you do it properly and you create a content matrix from one football game, you're able to tick all those boxes, right? And I think that's how most brands should look at it when it comes to striking that balance between virality and, being able to, license their content and make money from it.
Okay, but how, if you're trying to figure yourself out as a new brand, which of these tiers do you think would be the most important one for you to be utilizing?
Oh, no. Initially, as a new brand, right, you should probably focus on the first two tiers. You don't have enough leverage to be on the third tier, right? If you're a new brand that people are still don't really know, early days, you can't command anybody to pay the premium fee. So you really stay in that first and second tier where you're just trying to do viral content for reach. When you see you've built a bit of a mailing list, a bit of a community, then you can look into, okay, these guys that are subscribers on YouTube have access to this sort of content. But I say new brands will play in the first two tiers.
I think, because I see that often, with a lot of new music, especially, when new music comes out, it appears they don't really care about IP rights anymore. They just get my song everywhere, TikTok dances, anything needs to go. How can that translate in sports?
So it's similar to what I just said a second ago, right? I'll relate it back to the music. At the point in time when you're trying to come out the gates, what's most important to you is reaching people, right? So if you're let me even talk marketing funnel, for instance. The first stage is awareness. People have to be aware of you. Oh, this is your brand, whatever the case is. The next stage is consideration, right? Which is further down the tunnel. And then you have the conversion stage where you convert them into being your fans or being part of your community or whatever your brand is. And that applies mostly across every line of business when it comes to engaging with customers, right? I say every brand, you can't beat that process. You have to pass the process. You're a new brand, the first thing you're just like, hey, I need everybody to know who I am, right? It's then when you've gotten a bit of leverage, you've gotten a bit of traction, that you can then start saying, okay, let me start driving revenue from this. But even when you look at it from a, different brands, even in the sports space, right? If you look at content, back to the matrix I spoke about, even the smaller brands, right? They find a way to position different content on different platforms for different reasons. Initially, it can be, you just start off with goal highlights. If you're a small brand with small resources, you're going to want to invest in those goal highlights, the little short form content. And then as your brand grows, then you can say, okay, you want to upload a full video on YouTube or whatever, or in a membership platform for people to access. So yeah, that's the way I see it.
Thank you. Mr. Akinkunmi, Mr. Aiyepeku, I see you nodding.
Yeah.
But I have a similar question for you as well on the topic of content. I think globally, broadcasting rights are very important in pushing revenue across various sports, football, all sports. From your time, both in government and out of government, what lessons do you think Nigerian leagues should be applying but currently are not in relation to broadcasting rights?
I'm not sure. I think it's on, right now the major broadcasting rights we can claim first to the national team, national football teams, the Falconets, the Super Eagles, the national basketball teams, both doing well. That's about it, really, national level. But then we have a fresh group coming up. The club owners or the new clubs are being promoted. However, the question is what value is put on those broadcasts rights, and it's only at national level that you can drive such a high value or negotiate a high value. Why? Because we simply haven't developed the quality overall of the whole product to the point where you can make demands of potential sponsors and all that. I'm sure as they have all seen, we've all seen, from my experience, the amount of effort and drive you have to put into just negotiating small sponsorships, it can drive you crazy. You keep pulling your hair out, as you can see. And what you get at the end of the day is actually nothing, comparatively. And then secondly, we have a challenge where most of our institutions keep information secret. If I ask anyone now, what's the value of the broadcast right of the MPFL or all those things, nobody's going to tell you, because somehow we keep it secret. But if you expose it, then you cannot contribute to enhancing the value, what needs to be done to grow the value, but it's not. So, and then thirdly, what's from the governance of all these entities, what are the clear roles they want clubs to play, for example, or club owners to play? Right now, I think now, Mr. Vigo, I think we should be like half now in Premier League,
so
of private to public.
8 private, 12
So now have it's 12. That's a major growth. So it means that they should be able to make demands. 8/20 is what now? 4/5. I mean, it's a good fraction anyway. But we've seen over the years, as when I was a partial club owner, we're always at war to establish what we demanded, and government will always push back that they are the ones who own the league. But now those things have to change. If they don't change, we can't drive value. Because it's the club owners and the clubs that are bringing the players, the management, the sustainability, enhancing the quality of the league, that they won't spend the money to develop players, and which has now pushed them to having only one source of major income, selling players. So every year you are consigned or confined or forced to sell your best players. Then you are forced to develop a new set. And there are so many fundamentals wrong. For example, I can't find your star players will not sign more than a year's contract. So how do you develop a fan base, the relevance, the followership? There's so many factors that have to be fundamentally changed to enhance the value of the domestic game, whatever the sport is, so that when that value is enhanced, you can now attract sponsorship, attract money, attract followership. People can now invest their funds and say, okay, I want to buy an Inter jersey because I just like the way they play. I want to buy Inter jersey because DG plays for Inter. And you know that DG played there last year, he'll be there next year. His number hasn't changed. In fact, you can't even afford to fix a number because it's money to fix a number for a player. So there's so many fundamentals, and I think with the number of new entrants and people who are investing their time and risk into all these things, I think it's time for like a kind of group to be formed to form a, what they call those things from politics, to form a
cabal?
Yeah, not a cabal, I just say cabal, but to form a push point, what they call
task force.
Pressure group. That to negotiate.
Pressure group?
A pressure group, thank you. Pressure group to begin to force issues. Otherwise, they keep getting suppressed and not getting enough satisfaction and value from their investment. And they need to.
Something that you just said now that I would like some further, you said that affixing a player number is money.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Maybe I should do that to Mr. Vigo. Really, because, please, maybe.
I'll give an example. A few of my friends, in our first season, they bought a particular player's jersey and it had his name at the back. And coming into the new season, so the following season, player was gone. And obviously they spent money on that player's jersey and number. The new season, there's a new player with that number. So you have to now spend money again buying a new jersey with someone else's name.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Or you can imagine if you had stocked his shop with 50 jerseys of
exactly
number 10.
this
next season they do the
exactly this particular player, Tony Obia, as the case with all of them, they always sign 1 year.
1 year.
Because all of them believe that they're going to go to Europe in a couple of months, so why am I tying myself down with this Nigerian club? If you're able to sign a player for 2 years, that means you've begged and promised exactly for that player, but it's something that's it's still a very big problem here in Nigeria.
So what kind of, let's make it a bit more legal, what kind of clauses and terms are we looking at in these agreements that make it attractive to players to say, okay, instead of the 1 year, I'll do the 2 years now?
Okay, so you definitely need to give them a signing on fee. That already will just keep their mind at rest. If they need to send the money back home or whatever. Then obviously the regular salary, goal bonuses, assist bonus. Let's say if they're top goal scorer in the league, or if they score over 10 goals, you can promise them 250,000 naira, 500,000 naira. So there's little incentives like that you give the player and then makes them want to stay. But even at that, if I'm promising a player, okay, you get 1 million naira if you're a top scorer in the league, and one club in Europe, it could be even like a 3rd, 4th division team in Europe is saying, come and take $1,000 a month, they will run there immediately because it's guaranteed. And it's also another fundamental problem here in Nigeria. You promise, or rather you sign a contract with a player, you've agreed terms and whatnot, and they don't keep to it. So there's that lack of trust between the players, the administrators, the club owners. So until we fix all of that, players will be leaving us.
Mr. Akinkunmi, I see you also agreeing, nodding, shaking your head. Like you have some insights you want to add to this.
No, I think you said it all. Because I spoke earlier about a lack of trust when he spoke about, people, us being sponsor ready. So when he said that, obviously that resonated because it's something that plagues a lot of aspects of, even sports business and everything. So yeah, I think I really resonate with that.
I think trust has been a very key word here today. As Mr. Aiyepeku also mentioned, the trust of, to even value the assets, you need to know what is happening, what is the going rate of what's going on. If we're not disclosing that, we're all just then working in silos and no one is progressing.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Akinkunmi, if you could advise leagues or federations on one immediate commercial step to improve their IP attractiveness to sponsors, what would you recommend they do?
That's a very good question. I think Data, man. Be very, very intentional about your data. Because if you're trying to, get people into markets to invest on your platform, you need to show who, what, where, how. What is your demographics, right? Is it the player behavior? Is it the fan behavior, right? Once you're able to capture this intel, you have a bit more leverage when approaching these brands. Data is crude, so, like it's gold. It's really, if you look at where the world is going, there's not many things you can do without data. That's why, on a Nigeria basis, we have the BVN, we have the NIN. This is all data because they're trying to know who is here, right? And I think when it applies to in sports context, it's also very important. I think abroad, they do a way better job. They have, they have ways they capture data. They have it stored. But Nigeria will still have something that we need to be very intentional about.
Okay. Thank you. I think we've had a very robust conversation today. I do have one final question for all of you to answer, and then we'll go into Q&A. So, for all our fantastic panelists, what is one practical step that should be taken, and this is not just brands, it's by the government, by leagues, by athletes, by anyone, that they can do after this conversation to push sports and its IP here in Nigeria? Start with you, Mr. Vigo.
Okay, I think it's very important that we have these sort of conversations because you'd be surprised that a lot of people have no idea about these sort of things. They're even not interested. It's until there's problem. It's when there's an issue that they now call on a lawyer and be like, hey, I'm facing this issue. How do I go about it? If we can sort it out from the early stages, if we can start having those conversations now, we wouldn't have these problems later. So I think definitely having more of these conversations, because even I myself, to be honest, when I first started, it wasn't something I thought about. It was until I faced some of it or I saw examples. I'll give an example. A top Nigerian player signs with a Nigerian brand, and they do press conference, everything. Maybe you might eventually guess what I'm talking about, but they do a press conference, they announce it, and his club reaches out to me. I'm like, hey, why did you do this? We have your image rights. So he lost that sponsorship deal. So they had to quickly get someone else involved. So obviously after that, the player realized that, okay, I actually need to be reading
your
contract. The agent that did the deal actually did a bad deal, because why would you give 100% of my rights to the club? So it's very important that we start having these conversations now and as early as possible with the young players, because they can still listen, they can still soak up a lot of information. The older ones might not necessarily want to listen to you, but let's start with the younger players.
I think image rights, honestly, is something that's such a, I want to say like a minefield. I think nobody's ever prepared for how left it can go, how wrong a situation can turn. And you think, oh yeah, it's my face, therefore I own it. But if you don't read your contract properly, you have signed away your rights, and somebody else now has the right to control what you do with that face.
And make money off it.
Exactly, and you may, if you got a bad deal, no money for you until those rights expire. Okay, Mr. Aiyepeku, shall I repeat the question or? Okay.
I would have some different on two levels.
Please do.
One, in agreement with you, and then secondly, that also with that one, that players need education. We need a basis for educating and exposing players to all these things. So yes, we can hold conversations at this level of management and administration and all that, but the players themselves need to be educated and exposed. And then secondly, speaking in general terms to everybody, federations and all that, in terms of sports in general, I think we need more people to be brave. We have to create events. I think events and organizations or clubs are the pillars of driving the platforms where you can have IP value. So, for example, if I ask anyone here, how many volleyball events have you gone to in or have you even, no, not even gone to, have you learnt of in a whole year? There's none. Meanwhile, we have about 52 or so registered official sports in the country. We've talked only about football. But there are 52 other sports where people have interest that can drive equity, that can drive value, that can drive interest, that can drive... There are so many things to do, but how many are brave or are held accountable to drive events and to promote this kind of talk? None. Without trying to sound as if, oh, I did something, but in the 4 years I was in government, we were, after the first year of COVID, we were driving 115 minimum events a year.
Wow.
In Lagos State. Why? Because somebody had to focus on the generality and make sure that other sports also grew. But if we don't do that or have a focus on that, then there's a problem. And when I say events, it doesn't just have to be playing on the pitch. There's education, there's exposure, there are exhibitions, there are trainings, and there's so many things to do to bring up the educational or informational level to that which we need, so that people who are investing will have enough data and all that to pull from, to say, okay, look, it's worth your investing in and all that.
That's very insightful. Thank you. Just to add, sir, that our firm are very brave, because we played in the volleyball tournaments in the BOA Lawyers League,
No
the
ALP,
the ALP Amazons, and some of them are here today.
Oh, very good. Good job.
Yes,
Good job.
yes. So,
We have to do more of those
You guys
things.
want?
Mr. Vigo.
That's a club owner speaking.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Akinkunmi, please, your...
For a practical step, I would say, so I'll speak more from a stakeholder standpoint. I think there's the need for a committee, or whatever the case is, to put together a feasibility report, right? And the goal of this feasibility report is to show government officials, federations, clubs, how much money they are losing and the potential money they can earn by structuring this IP monetization avenues, right? I think when you can show people almost like a cost benefits analysis, they are more likely to say, I can't miss out on this thing, because it's not that difficult to actually structure it properly. I think nobody structures it properly because maybe they can't see the value, they can't see the potential. But if you're able to show them, a club that, for instance, or a federation that's basically basing their thing on sponsorship and maybe products, is then able to see, okay, I can then open a completely different revenue stream, which can pay the bills more. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have more questions for you guys, but I also want to open it up to everybody else. So we will now move on, as I said, to the Q&A. So I have some questions from the room. Some are for specific speakers and some are for everyone to answer. So I think I'll start with the one for anyone, then we'll go into the specific people zone. So a question is, how has technology changed the way IP is managed in sports?
I think you should take that.
I think how technology managed the way. So thing is, as you even said initially when it got, I'm not sure if it was you or Mr. Vigo initially about CR7 trademark etc. Right? Now it's easier or faster for people to, through technology, to access these things. Right? It's easier for you to buy a jersey. It's easier for you to see the celebration or whatever the case is. Right? Now, because of how easy it is to access it, there's more of a need to secure that thing because it's so easy to transmit it. And that is why people need to be more intentional, right? You have a lot of players, I'll speak about celebrations, when it comes to CR7, Mbappe, even Haaland, who unfortunately scored against Arsenal, which is my team. But technology has just made this thing, in your face in a second. So if you're not intentional and you don't get ahead of it, you're going to lose out. That's basically it.
I think I agree completely. Like we were saying earlier as well, the whole thing of variety versus protection, where you can try as you want, but there'll be one TikTok account, all these TikTok bots, who you protect, but they are still just coming, churning it out. And I think like there's also AI considerations. They make deep fakes of your players. Like there's the French, the unofficial theme for France for FIFA.
Song?
Huh?
The theme song.
Yeah, the theme song. People are saying like it's AI, but people are loving it at the same time.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, wow, I had no idea it was AI.
Allegedly, it's AI.
Serious.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Okay. Another question. Ooh. How can intellectual property be used to truly unlock value in Nigerian sports? And how do traditional systems and tribal dynamics influence who benefits from that value?
I thought we talked about that extensively.
I think maybe the tribal dynamics angle is what they're considering.
It's one Nigeria. It's one Nigeria.
One Nigeria.
Yeah. I mean, we have commercialized almost everything. Every potential sports person is the end of the chain for like 1,000 people behind him or her, and so there's no traditions anymore. Almost supply what we used to eat, sustenance and all that. So I don't see how traditions can, except maybe extremes I can't even imagine right now.
To be honest, I hope I'm answering the question right. But there's still this thing where positions are zoned. Positions are zoned. So today it's a Yoruba person, tomorrow it's an Igbo person, tomorrow it's an Hausa person. We need to solve that. We need to put the people that are actually good enough.
Put the people,
Like,
players
I
forward.
think once we can stop that can reduce the problems that we're facing in the sports industry, or most industries, to be honest, in Nigeria. Once we stop zoning things and putting the actual people that are actually good at their job or the job, it solves a lot of problems.
That's a hard, true point.
Okay, this question is for Mr. Akinkunmi. Looking ahead, what specific legal or policy reforms would be the most critical to unblocking the full commercial potential of IP in Africa's sports industry, particularly in areas such as broadcasting rights, digital content, and enforcement?
So I think firstly, as Mr. Shola said previously, I think the most, when it comes to IP in Nigeria specifically, the one we can say is most valuable is probably, the national teams, right? And I think there has to be a body responsible under the sports commission or whatever the case is, responsible for firstly registering the different IPs we have, across the national teams, the names, the logos, the jerseys, all of that, and being able to track the usage of these things, right? To police it. At the same time, while they're also policing it, they're also able to commercialize it and market it to different bodies who might want to leverage it. But I would say the hardest part in that is really the enforcement angle. It's easy for anybody to wake up and create this or create that, but where we often fall short is ensuring that we stick to it. And that's also sometimes down to human error, funding error, etc. But I would say those are the ways that we can, work to solve that.
Very, very, very true. Enforcement is, I think, one of the biggest challenges across many industries.
Everything.
It's one of the biggest challenges. Oh, we will get there.
Slowly but surely.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay. Mr. Aiyepeku, this question is for you. From your experience in the sports industry, how do you think athletes, clubs, and sports administrators in Africa understand the commercial value of their IP, such as their image, branding, and media rights? And where do you think the biggest knowledge gaps exist?
Like we talked about earlier, I think earlier, a few years back, there was even no interest or knowledge base, or nobody cared. But with increasing exposure, information, and education, more people, especially from the creative point of view, are doing the fundamentals. So, like Mr. Vigo said, you register a company or create a product or a service, you trademark it. I remember that from about 2003, 2004, when I created Nigeria Bankers Games, we trademarked it then, but the follow-on commercial, we didn't really do anything about it. It was just that nobody should use the name. It was only about the name. But now we know it's beyond the name. There's commercial value to be driven, and you need to drive data. So by the time you register a trademark and all that, then you can now begin to track with all the tools you have online and all that. I think the biggest gap still remains across both in terms of education, exposure, and knowledge base about what the true value or what the potential value of your IP knowledge or value is. Right now, there's something he said that indirectly, the knowledge base of the administrators and management at management level is very low. Because most people there don't even know anything about what they're doing. It's mostly political appointments. And it's only if you are lucky that you put a square peg in a square hole. So
We need more passionate people like you to go back.
I won't talk about that. That's private discussion. And so you find that you don't even have to scratch the surface. It's there. You see that the person who is in one position doesn't know anything. We might work together on the MBA for Lagos State, and we know what we faced. We know what we faced, and those are people who knew what they were doing. So I would say really it's a very dire situation in terms of IP valuation and drive. But like I said, with the increasing number of people who are educated and exposed and have a vision coming into the sports industry, then those questions will be asked. The talk will be, with these kind of talks, must become frequent. The interest, like you guys did, going to participating or being part of competition or events is necessary, because you have to create more social event value so that people can have somewhere to attend. Then you can begin to talk about things that affect grassroots. Then you can begin to see the gaps, and I know I'm pushing from there. So there's still a large gap at development, opportunity and potential, and therein lies where you can also make money. But if we are like a wild west right now, then you can imagine what it will be like when we're even structured. So there's still a lot of gap. Can you imagine that till today there is no consistent underage football competition for under 15s, under 14s, under 13s? Can you imagine somebody can just come and structure that? Structure that and just get kids playing. And you get parents to pay, because right, the parents look for where their kids can play and develop their talent. So can you imagine if we can create that kind of entity or that kind of structure, and then kids are playing every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 1 hour per age group to the age of 15 or 16. So there's so much potential, but people have to be brave to delve into it and drive that value.
Thank you. This one for Mr. Lanre Vigo. Given the limited and often fragmented recognition of image and personality rights across many African jurisdictions, how can athletes better structure their contractual and commercial arrangements to protect and fully exploit their personal brands?
So I think, apart from the athletes themselves knowing about this, it's also about having a very good agent that can help you, agent or lawyer that can help you negotiate your image rights, or let you know what you need to protect. I think everything there's no limit. There's no like, oh, if you're protected here in Nigeria, you still need to go and find another protection abroad. It covers everything. So it's all about having the right knowledge of the IP, and then having a good agent that can help you negotiate your image rights.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Fair. That is. Okay, so we actually have some YouTube questions as well. We're here to talk about IP and sports, so we're going to talk about IP and sports, okay?
No problem.
So, for someone in Africa who is interested in IP, in sports and IP, but does not have access to big platforms, where do they even start? This is for any of the panelists.
By growing their product or value.
But what do they need to do to start building the product and the value?
So what makes the person think that the person has any value to start?
You have to put yourself out
You have to put yourself out
You
there.
have to put your product out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like we at Inter now, we live stream all our games. We get close to 1,000 people that tune into our games, depending on the magnitude of the game. And we've been told now that we can't live stream in the Premier League. So we now have to go back to the drawing board, because that was a selling point for us when we were speaking to brands. But now that we can't do that anymore, we need to go back to the drawing board and see how else we can get this live stream. Because to be honest, our live stream was popping. Like the comment section, people are going crazy there when we scored or when we've lost or whatever. So we need to now go back to the drawing board and see how we can get this, we can continue this. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but we'll try and find a way around it.
So you can't live stream in the Premier League because they already have their own rights.
They have their own, exactly.
These are the legal issues.
Yeah, but for example, they have their own rights. The question I'll ask, which I know will come up is, okay, you have your rights. How much are we getting from those rights?
Very true.
We don't.
You don't get
tracking it. Who is not? Yeah.
I know. I'm just. So
there's no. It's just that's it.
which comes back to what we said at the beginning about administration and who they're governing.
We should be able, even if like they have their own official broadcasting rights, whatever. Some games they should let us broadcast ourselves. I think we see that with like the English Premier League teams. There are some games that you can probably only watch on Man United TV or Arsenal TV.
Yeah.
So if we can sit down like that and talk and just reach an agreement, it will help us, because we have like our own data. We can show the brands that people are tuning in from
I love
England.
this, how Tobi was saying data earlier, and now
of course.
we're seeing the real life examples of it.
Because you show, okay, people are tuning in from England, people are tuning in from Lagos, there are more people tuning in from, I don't know, Kaduna or whatever, and you can even see that, okay, there's a good balance between both male and female people, male and female viewers.
Yeah.
So,
and they must see that it's a mutual enhancement of value.
exactly.
That means the MPFL will be going to all those places they've not been yet. You know, they has to be monetized. You know.
It does. Okay. Another question from YouTube. I think we already asked this one, but every voice counts. If someone wants to leave this webinar today and wants to take IP in sports seriously, what is one realistic step they can take immediately?
Register a course with your
Reach out to
Reach out to ALPNG and Co.
That's your game now.
That's your copyright.
That's your project.
At least you can see. We didn't do self-promotion. From
But I mean,
okay.
we will still speak after.
Okay, and I think there was one more. These are the questions. Okay, since we are talking about IP in sports, how about we take the conversation to IP in gyms, like equipment branding and proprietary training methods? Any of the panelists?
I think my last year with government, I don't know, maybe I should mention names, but I worked with iFitness. And the whole idea was to bring in iFitness to partner with government for different reasons. And while discussing with the owner of iFitness, I mean, he had such incredible plans, and I can see them being executed. And what he has done, one of the many things he has done, is to create a new level and genre of entrepreneurs. Because all his gym instructors and co have certain privileges and freedom to create their own market, so to speak, but it's still within the iFitness empire. And I think that means a lot. So if I were an instructor under iFitness, I could develop my own, product or service. I could trademark it and develop that IP value to the public, which even helps you because you're under a known brand or known name, but yet you have your own product that you can promote and push the value of. So I think that our creative investment or environment or platform is important to help drive the conversation and the value of an IP value.
Thank you very much, sir. On that note, our webinar is coming to an end. I think it seems like we've discussed a lot of things today. I think some key things to take away: trust, data, image rights, get all those things in order, and you can definitely start with building your sports and IP brands. I want to say a very big thank you, ALP, NG and Co, to our panelists. And we hope you have enjoyed yourselves here today. We definitely have. We've learned a lot. And thank you very much for coming. Everybody that's listening online, thank you for registering. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to talk to ALP, NG and Co. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We do have some bags for you, so.
Our IP values is said there.
Olamide, please ask people for the bags.